Hello, in this video, I'm going to go through all of the cards that I would include if I was going to build a Heroes of the Half-Shell Mutant Commander deck. I'm not going to focus on any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards in this video, so I don't think that's very interesting. I think it'll be more interesting to go back through Magic's history and build a mutant deck without them, and then add them as easily as I think they're all going to fit in. First up, I have Genova, Ancient Calamity. For 2, a black and a green. It's a 1/5 legendary creature alien. At the beginning of combat on our turn, put in a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on one other target creature. It becomes a mutant. And whenever a mutant you control dies during your turn, you draw cards equal to its power. I'm also going to build my mutant deck focused on +1/+1 counters, and Genova making things into mutants that won't all be mutants. For example, our ramp effects, if they're on creatures, and there's at least one that I want to include that's a creature, isn't a mutant. So this making them mutants is great. And then also being able to draw cards whenever our mutants die is fantastic. Next, I have Agent Frank Horgan. For 5, a black and a green. It's an 8/6 with trample. It is a mutant, and it has indestructible as long as it attacked this turn. And when it enters or attacks, you proliferate twice. So really going to be able to increase the number of +1/+1 counters put on our creatures, our commander, Heroes of the Half Shells. Whenever they deal combat damage, you put +1/+ counters on them. So there's going to be a ton of +1/+ counters, and being able to proliferate a ton of times, especially on a creature that has trample, and any of our other creatures that have trample is going to be fantastic. Next, I have the Wise Mothman. For 1, a black, a green, and a blue. It's a 3/3 flyer. It is a mutant. Whenever it enters or attacks, each player gets a rad counter. Whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, put a +1/+ counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, where X is the number of non-land cards milled this way. So I think in Commander there's a lot of incidental mill, and I don't really want to build my deck around mill, but I think there's such a phenomenal amount of incidental that just putting a couple rad counters on things, getting some cards to be milled, and then also just having a mutant that's a flyer wears +1/+ counters really well. So I think there's a lot of synergies with this card, and I like it a lot. Hancock, Ghoulish Mayor is the next card. For 2 and a black, it's a 2/1 zombie mutant advisor. Each other creature you control that's a zombie or mutant gets +X/+X, where X is the number of counters on it, and it has Undying. So it wears its +1/+ counters really well, and then comes back, and then you put more +1/+ counters on it. Fantastic. Marcus, Mutant Mayor. It is a mutant. For 4/4, it's a Vigilance Trample, so it wears our +1/+ counters super well. Whenever a creature you control does combat damage to a player, draw a card if that creature has a +1/+ counter on it. If it doesn't, put a +1/+ counter on it. So introducing more card draw into our deck on our creatures that are synergistic with our deck is fantastic. Synergistic ramp, synergistic card draw, these things are fantastic. So I'd really like Marcus Mutant Mayor here. Next up, I have Indoraptor, the perfect hybrid. For 1, a black or a green and a red. It's a 3/1 with Bloodthirst X. It has Menace, and when it's dealt damage, choose an opponent at random. It deals damage equal to its power to that player unless they sacrifice a non-token creature. This is a super aggressive card. Menace wears the +1/+ counters well. Bloodthirst lets it enter with counters, and it's just a mutant, which is fantastic, and it has a low cost. A lot of our mutants, like the next one, Alpha Deathclaw, is 6 mana for a 6/6. That's a lot of mana. So having cheaper mutants that are very strong as well, and not just like junk shapeshifters, is great. So this is a menacing trample. When it enters or becomes monstrous, destroy target permanent. And you can make it monstrous. It has monstrosity 4 for 7. So you can put +1/+ counters on it if you have no things happening with +1/+ counters. Just a great card for this deck. Titus, Yuna's Guardian. For green, white, and a blue, it's a 3/3 human warrior, so not mutant. But at the beginning of combat on a turn, you may move a counter from target creature control to a second target creature. And whenever one or more creatures with counters deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. So, 2 things. A, if you're moving your +1/+ counters around, and later I'm going to get into my hardened scales effects, if you move a counter from a creature with 3 to a creature with 0, hardened scales goes, oh, that's a counter, put an extra one. So now you can have more counters being moved around instead of just one big creature with a bunch of counters, and then being able to do proliferation and drawing on combat damage is great. We have a lot of combat damage triggers. Jason, Bright Glowing Prophet. For 2 and a blue, it's a 2/3 mutant. When a zombie or mutant you control dies, if its power was different from its base power, draw a card. So any of our things with auras or equipment or plus encounters, when they die, we draw a card. And then we can pay 2, sack a creature, put a plus encounter to a creature you control, it gains fly until end of turn. I think that's a little bit of flavor text. I do think that there are some tokens we can sacrifice. Later, I'm going to get into a giant that's a mutant. And then I also have black market connections in the build. So you could sacrifice the tokens that it makes to put plus encounters on things and give them flying. But overall, we're just like a beat down, go wide and beat down deck. So I don't know how giving one creature flying is that great, but I just think it's a good card. Anything dies, we draw a card. Keeper of the Keys for 3, a blue and a blue. It's a 4/4 mutant. When it enters, you become the monarch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the monarch, creatures you control can't be blocked this turn. That's ridiculous in this deck where we're just going to be hitting hard with a ton of mutants, and then them being unblockable is great. And I think that us having a bunch of mutants that some of them even have vigilance, I just think it's going to be hard for them to even take the monarchy from us unless they literally have flyers, because our deck, mutants don't have reach or flying so far. So those are things we're going to want to consider adding to the deck with equipment. Wolverine, best there is. For 1, a red and a green, it's a 2/2. You double all damage you would deal. And at the beginning of your end step, if it dealt damage to another creature this turn, you put a ++ counter on it, and then you can regenerate it. It's a cheap mutant, deals a lot of damage, and then it gets bigger and you can regenerate it on the card. Watchful Radstag for 2 and a green, it's a 2/2 with Evolve, and whenever it evolves, you create a token that's a copy of it. This thing's going to multiply very quickly and then get bigger as you just continue to play your cards. It's going to get out of hand and really help with that go wide strategy I was talking about. Rolusk, Apex Hybrid for 2, a green and a green, and a blue. It's a 4/5 flying trample. When it enters the battlefield, you put 2 ++ encounters on another creature you control. And when it dies, you proliferate, then proliferate again. So it introduces ++ encounters. It has flying. I just talked about how these cards need to have flying. They need to have reach. And then it being proliferation on dying just makes everything else bigger. Lily Bowen, Raging Grandma for 3 and a green. It's a 0/0 with Vigilance. When it enters with 2 ++ encounters. And at the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of ++ encounters on it if its power is 16 or less. Otherwise, remove all but one of those counters from it. Then you gain 1 life for each counter removed this way. So it gets bigger, It can become a 12, a 14, a 15, 15 with Vigilance. And then as soon as it gets over that 16 mark, or even at that 16 mark, I guess, you just gain a bunch of life, regenerate yourself, it's harder to kill you, and then it just goes up from there. The Ozolith, the Shattered Spire, we're moving a lot of ++ encounters around. So if one or more ++ encounters, you put on one or more or artifacts or creatures we control for that many +1, and then you can just pay 2 tap if you have extra mana to put a counter on something and start the chain reaction. The colorless Ozolith would be good here too, because we can just keep our ++ counters around and then move them onto our creatures. The Earth Crystal for 2, a green and a green. If one or more ++ encounters we put on a creature you control, twice that many are put instead. And then I also think that these mutants are just pretty expensive as a whole. So this making all of our green spells cost 1 colorless less to cast is great. Rhythm of the Wild prevents our creature spells from being countered. And then our non-token creatures have Riot. So we can have them enter with haste. Now our commander already has haste, or a ++ encounter to guarantee that they get all of the benefits of, whenever something with ++ counter dies, whenever something with a ++ counter just combat damage. The creatures already having them from the moment they entered is great. Sphere Grid, whenever a creature you control does combat damage to a player, put a ++ counter on it, and then gives all of those creatures with ++ counters reach and trample. Which, as I've gone through the video, I've explained how good those are. Hardened Scales, I've already explained why this is good, but whenever one or more counters you put on something, put that many +1. So you move them around with Titus, that deal combat damage, they get 2 counters, tons of possibilities. Warden of the Grove, I remember this card from the pre-release I did. 3 mana for a 2/2 at the beginning of your end step, put a ++ counter on this creature. Whenever another non-token creature you control enters, it endures X, where X is the number of counters on this creature. So you either put X ++ counters on it, or you make an XX. So this has 5 counters, let's say. Either all of your creatures enter with 5 ++ counters, or you make armies of 5 creatures, which then you can put counters on them. They get all the benefits, and they deal a lot of damage really quickly. Now, they're not a mutant, so the tokens aren't a mutant, but whatever. Evolution Witness, 2 and a green. This is a mutant. It's a 2/1. Whenever one or more ++ encounters are put on it, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Super strong. If you just get 1 or 2 counters a turn, you're returning basically anything that dies or anything that you use or any anything back to your hand, which is great. I also think this is great because we're playing 5 colors. If we play Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expand, City Skyscape, Fabled Passage, Myriad Landscape, or any of the fetch lands, returning those cards back to our hand, just making sure we always hit our land drops is great. Skate Wing Spy. It is a mutant, and it says each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Fantastic. This is exactly the cards we need for this deck. Cytoplast Manipulator for 2, a blue and a blue. It has Graft 2, so when this creature comes into play, it has 2 +1/+1 counters. And whenever another creature comes into play, under anyone's control, you can move a counter from it to that creature. Then you can pay blue tap, gain control of target creature with a +1/+1 counter on it for as long as it remains in play. So this can kind of slow your opponents down from even being able to cast their creatures because you can just take them as soon as they enter. Master Biomancer. It's not a mutant, but it says each other creature you control enters with the number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to its power, and it becomes a mutant in addition to its other types. So this makes all of your other creatures into mutants. It's not a mutant, but it introduces a ton of +1/+1 counters. Goblin Goliath for 4, a red and a red. It's a 5/4. When it enters, you create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. You can pay 4 to tap it, and if a source you control will deal damage to an opponent this turn, it deals double. But really, I like when it enters, you create a bunch of 1/1s equal to the number of opponents you have, so maybe 3. But it is a mutant, and those 1/1s can wear counters really well, and any enter the battlefield abilities, like if you were to play Cathar's Crusade in this build, which is a card I would have included if I had thought about it before I started making the video. Whenever a creature enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This would be 4 more +1/+1 counters, which is fantastic. Cover of Darkness. When it comes into play, choose a creature type. I'm going to choose mutant. Creatures of the chosen type have fear. So for this video, like I said at the beginning, I focus primarily on mutants. So this is great. If you're building a build between mutants and ninjas and turtles, this card is not as good, but just being able to say I'm a mutant deck and giving all of our mutants fear is great. Black Mug Connections. It's a little bit of ramp. Beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you make a treasure, you lose a life. Draw a card, you lose 2. Create a 3/2, which is a changeling, so it's a mutant. And it triggers all of our stuff. So I like this card, especially if you're going to include cards like Whip of Erebos that give all of our creatures lifelink, so you don't lose life too quickly, since we haven't gotten any cards that have lifelink. Only the Raging Grandma is a way to draw not draw cards, but gain life in this deck. Coat of Arms, each creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature on the battlefield that shares at least one creature type with it. All of our things are mutants. There's going to be a lot of sharing going on. Kindred Dominance, choose your creature type. I'm going to choose mutant and destroy all creatures that aren't that type. Bloom Tender, I think that it's not a mutant, but being able to tap for each color among permanents you control in a 5-color deck is fantastic. As soon as we play our commander, this thing's tapping for 5 mana. Our mutants, again, are very expensive. Roaming Throne for 4. You choose mutant, it becomes a mutant, and then any triggered abilities, including our commander's combat damage ability, including any death abilities, that, oh yeah, when a mutant you control dies, whenever it comes to this +1/+1 counter dies, it would happen an additional time. So that's great. Herald's Horn can make all of our mutants cost 1 less, and then also check the top of our library to see if it's a creature and put it into our hand at the beginning of each turn. But again, our mutants are super expensive, so cards like Herald's Horns, cards like Urza's Incubator for 3 colors and artifact, you choose mutant, and now all of your mutants cost 2 less. Great card. Great card for this deck. Our mutants are very expensive. We need to throw a bunch of things down quickly. Mutational Advantage for 1, a green and a blue. It's an instant. Permanents you control with counters on them gain hexproof and indestructible. You prevent all damage we dealt to those permanents this turn. Then you proliferate. Super good card on this deck. Being able to give indestructible, being able to proliferate. Hexproof, I think, comes up a little bit less, but there's just hexproof and indestructible and damage and proliferate. Tons of power there. And then Ripples of Potential proliferates, and you choose any number of permanents you control that have counterpart on this way, and they phase out for 1 turn. So those are all the protection spells that I think are very much on theme. And those are all the cards that I would include if I was going to build a Heroes of the Half-Shell Mutant Commander deck. I did not focus on ninjas or turtles for this one, and I plan on making videos for those things as well. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thanks.